the married pimp, the prostitute, and the coven of chaos. The city never sleeps, and neither do those who thrive in its shadows. At the heart of an underground network of crime, deception, and manipulation stood Jackson and Celeste. Partners in business, but far from lovers. Jackson, a well-connected pimp with ties to the criminal underworld, ran an empire of high-end escorts under the guise of a legitimate enterprise. Celeste, his most profitable asset, was not just another worker in his stable. She was his public face, his lure, and the one who ensured their power remained unchallenged. Their relationship was an open one, but not in the way most people would think. Jackson held the reins, and Celeste, despite her charm and cunning, was as much a prisoner as she was a willing participant. Together, they operated within a dark coven of corruption, a syndicate that extended beyond prostitution, one steeped in crimes that touched every corner of the city's elite. The crimes of their coven, human trafficking and exploitation. Their operation was more than just escort services. Young men and women were coerced into their world, trapped by blackmail, drugs, and threats. They had no escape, bound by a system designed to keep them in submission. Money laundering, the brothels, clubs, and high-end parties were perfect fronts to wash dirty money. Funds flowed from drug deals, stolen goods, and illicit transactions, disguised as business revenue. Identity theft and fraud. Many of the women under Jackson's control were stripped of their identities. Their documentation was forged, sold, and used to create phantom businesses, offshore accounts, and fraudulent financial schemes. Blackmail and extortion. Politicians, corporate executives, and celebrities were all part of their clientele. Hidden cameras recorded every encounter, ensuring that anyone who tried to break free from their grasp paid the price. Drug distribution. Celeste wasn't just a prostitute, she was a dealer. Their coven supplied drugs at elite parties, ensuring that those in power stayed numb and compliant. Satanic rituals and occult practices. This was more than just crime, it was power through the darkest means. They played with blood sacrifices, binding spells, and demonic sex rituals. Pacts to secure their influence. Many who crossed them disappeared, their fates left only to whispered rumors. Government ties and corruption. It wasn't just criminals who had their hands in the game. Police officers, government officials, and even federal agents were part of their protection network. Those who weren't bought were silenced. Sexual abuse and exploitation of minors. Perhaps the most horrific crime in their arsenal was their involvement in trafficking minors. They procured young boys and girls for high-paying clients who sought the unspeakable. They destroyed lives before they even began. Illegal surveillance and cyber crimes. Through technology, they tracked, recorded, and manipulated. Every conversation, every deal, and every secret was monitored, ensuring that they remained untouchable. Murders disguised as suicides. Those who became liabilities were disposed of. Overdoses, suicides, disappearances. These were common occurrences. Their hands were clean in the public eye, but their empire was built on bodies. The fall. Celeste, once the willing queen of this dark empire, found herself sinking into paranoia. The same tactics they used against others were now being used against her. She had seen too much, done too much, and now she was being hunted by the very forces she helped to empower. The rituals, the sacrifices, the endless cycle of corruption, it had all taken a toll on her soul. And then came the ultimate betrayal. Jackson, the man who controlled her world, had already replaced her. She was no longer useful. He had found another, younger, more easily manipulated woman to take her place. Celeste had been discarded like all the others before her. With nowhere left to run, she turned to the authorities, but there was no justice to be found. The system was infected with the same disease that fueled their empire. She knew too much, and that meant only one thing: her days were numbered. The darkness they had conjured had finally come to collect. Celeste had walked into hell willingly, believing in an illusion of wealth and power, only to realize too late that she had sold her soul. And Jackson, he remained untouchable, a phantom in the shadows, waiting for his next victim. The coven continued, the cycle unbroken, feeding off the desperate, the greedy, and the damned.